Good morning.
It is a good morning. How are you, Josh?
I am fabulous. So excited to be here.
I'm
How
so
are you
excited.
today?
I'm also fabulous. Thank you.
You always fabulous. So I mean, that's a given. So
You are fresh from the shower, dripping wet, we see.
no, this is just my natural hair. It's got a natural wet look to it. So
Like all of those terrible wet wigs on the runway lately, this past season before All Stars.
it's very, very chic. That's what I've been told. It's super très chic, as they say.
Oh, gotcha,
And I
gotcha.
am anything except très chic. So I'm trying to become more très chic. You know how it is.
Well, while we're talking about Drag Race, what did you think of last night's episode?
What didn't I think of last night's episode?
What does that mean?
All the thoughts I have in my head. I mean, my goodness,
Well, first of
backstabbing.
all, nobody tried to quit.
Well, they didn't have to. Somebody just kicked them right off. So, what an episode. I was genuinely shocked by the person that was eliminated.
Well, we say up front, spoilers. If you haven't watched this week's episode of Drag Race, which has been out since like
You
4 a.m. yesterday, then this week we said goodbye to the lovely and talented, um, sadly, Lala Ree, who was having a moment. She's been having a moment.
she's been giving us the whole La La Ree experience.
Big
So
time. Yeah. And you know what? I think in my opinion, she got one of the best redemptions of All Stars ever. Like,
well, yeah, considering her run on the show was
yeah,
only remembered for the bag dress.
sure. But I mean, really memorable. Um,
But I
it was
was
shocking. It was so shocking.
well, because I saw on Twitter, everyone was just talking on everything on Twitter, and I was like, okay, I can't look at Twitter for the rest of the day, because until I watch it. So,
Yeah.
and then I saw when I was getting off the bus to go home, I saw Alexis Michelle posted something saying, "Oh my goodness, I was just floored by the choices I had to make, and blah blah. It was a tough decision." I'm like, okay, shut it down, not looking at Twitter anymore until I watch the show, and then and then somebody that we both know mutually posted photos of Jessica Wilde, and I'm like, oh great, so Jessica Wilde went home. I'm like, and then I saw her dress on the show, and I'm like, how did Jessica Wilde end up on the bottom of this dress? Uh, and then Rue announced who was in what, and then I was like, okay, well, but I'm also a little confused why Jimbo just didn't win that outfit, because that outfit on Jimbo was
That outfit was great. And I had doubts. Um, they really were setting it up to make it seem like they weren't going to finish. But
Spirit asks how you're doing, by the way.
oh, uh, script. I'm doing well, thank you.
But that was a pretty and then just because Alexis was saved last week by the person who she sent home, it's like, how is she doing that? So
It was a shocker. I mean, it was literally a moment where Robert and I were like, "Oh!" It was gay gasp for sure. Um, but you know what? You have to hand it to Alexis Michelle because, and let's get her on the show because um, she I've seen some interviews with her with our upcoming guests, Big Dipper and Meatball. Big Dipper will be joining us on. They host a fabulous podcast, Sloppy Pod. Um, Go check that out if you haven't already. But I saw some clips of her on there. First of all, she looks like she would be a great guest by some of these answers she was given. But second of all, I just feel like she really understands reality TV.
yeah, I think that's very well. That's because every time I see her, I can't help but think Miss Chris Jenner.
Oh,
Because
right. Sure. Yeah.
she played her so well, and I'm like, well, I think she just is Chris Jenner, just as a drag queen.
How
So,
funny. How funny. I'm still way too bright. Sorry,
well,
y'all.
it's because it's so early. That's why it's dawn. So you've got sun coming in.
Well, it's like my shirt, which is a dark blue, looks like it's gray from.
Looks like a slate or a heather.
Yeah.
That's why you have to live in darkness like I do, or like some of our dead end friends apparently, because they're all talking about emerging from their hidey holes and everything. So, and we're very excited to have you here, all of you dead end fans, because this is a chance for you to see a little bit what we do as well.
Yeah, welcome to the show. We are super duper excited because we have Hamish Steele on the show today, and we will have him coming up
In
at
about 10
10
minutes.
minutes or so.
Yeah.
And originally we were going to have another guest from the UK, and they unfortunately couldn't make it. And then we
There it is Pride weekend in the UK, so
sure, yeah, let's blame it on the gays. And then
that's all I do is blame it on them. So
and then we thought we
well,
had a replacement guest that we got when we, the other one couldn't make it. And so that's why it said TBA on the thing, because we were fingers crossed it was coming through, but it did not.
but that's okay because I'm here with you today. Hamish will be here with us in a bit, and we'll have a great time.
Yeah, and Robert and I have to go look at some houses later anyway, so it works out fine.
That's fabulous, and I have to
And
get back to writing some stories and editing some stuff, and I'm filming tomorrow. So
yeah, the other thing too is it means we don't have to rush the hour that we're with Hamish. We can really take our time and
our dear friend Chonkahedron is awake and nice and well at a normal time for them. There's apparently a heat wave in the UK right now.
listen. It's a heat wave everywhere in Texas. Just about it. It's bad.
Not in New York right now, oddly enough. Usually Pride is one of the worst weekends, but today
Now, this morning it was gorgeous outside when I walked Baker.
today it's 79 degrees. 72 right now. So you enjoyed walking Baker this morning then. So
I
but now it's
did.
warm.
What did you say?
Well, it's still morning for you. It's 10:15.
It is. I mean, it's 11:15 for you, so it's not afternoon.
No, it's not. So I'm expecting it to be a little bit warmer in about an hour and a half, probably humid, and then I'll have to turn on my air conditioner and then be like, oh, thank goodness.
I'm trying to add a video clip real quick.
Oh, that's exciting. Is that your pride necklace in the meantime?
You know what? This is not my pride necklace, and this is technically not my necklace.
You
So
stole it.
I ordered this necklace from this really badass jewelry maker on Etsy, Kirby Chains, and I'm going to put their. It's so bright. There you go. You can kind of see it.
Yeah, I think I could scan that if I wanted to.
Yeah.
Kirby Chains on Etsy.
Yeah. So Kirby Chains, and it came in this really cute bag that came with a button, and so I got it, and I had actually asked for a larger size, and they sent mine to somebody else by mistake. So they're sending me they made another one, and I'm going to return this. They sent me a return label to send this back. And it'll be just like 2 inches longer.
Yeah, because it's a little bit of a choker right now.
It's giving summer lifeguard choke, like.
I'm not sure about that, but it's giving something.
It's giving second grade camp, summer camp.
It's giving like tight candy necklace kind of look.
Tight candy necklace. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Okay, great. So
88 degrees in Junkie Hedron's bedroom because they don't have AC. So.
Oh God, it's 85 degrees outside here. So yeah, that is something that Robert and I have been talking about going to the UK for years now, but we are going to go, and we're trying to decide on, like, are we going to go to, because we have to go to London because that's like I've always wanted to go there, but trying to decide whether to go this year or the beginning of next year or whatever. So, but every time I look and it's like there might be a deal in the middle of summer, and I think, but there's no ACs over there.
Yeah.
Not everywhere, obviously, but um, it wasn't that bad when I went to Spain. So I think it should be fun.
Well, I too have dreamed of going to Europe, and I've never done that yet.
You and Paul should go with us.
That could be fun. That could be a lot of
We
fun.
could do a Sidekick production over there.
I mean, Carl has been trying to get us to do that for forever and ever, and ever. So he would love it if we did that. And
Okay, so that here's our new fundraising goal. Let's create a either an episode of Skeleton Crew or something where the gang flies to the UK, and then we'll just film the whole thing.
so the gang consisting of Dennis and Sebastian Jupiter and Yakumo.
No, I meant like
Yakumo,
we could invite like Stuart and Ashley and Dan, and like who because Robert would be there, so we'd have to find a part for Robert too. So
that could be fun. That could be a lot of fun. And we'll get Mark Eugene to go as well. And
exactly. Yolanda, basically any sidekick person that wants to go, that can pay their own way to go, can come along. We'll write them in, but it's gotta be.
This is also a chance for us to get our UK friends and family into shows and all
sure.
that. We can get Carl a part. Chunky Hedron can come into London and do a part. So
that would be a lot of fun.
Jason in Paradise says good morning.
Good morning. I
would love that. Yeah, we should plan on that. So there we go.
See, this is how the musical episode started.
Make it like a Sherlock Holmes episode, Jason says.
Okay. Well, now it's a Demon Doctor episode, apparently.
I mean, it's probably easier to get.
It does make the most sense, especially if we were to go to Stonehenge.
Yeah, we could. I mean, Stonehenge would work. Also, just anywhere in the UK. I feel like everyone in the UK would be like, "Oh, look, this ancient cobblestone street."
Yeah. I saw some video of the sunrise happening at Stonehenge, and with a huge crowd on solstice, and it looked really, really fucking cool.
I imagine they probably don't allow a lot of filming there, though.
I'm sure they don't, but I mean, for this event, there were so many people. You know what I mean? It was just like cameras everywhere. You know what I mean? So that's what we should do, is go there on a day that there's something big happening where everybody's already being touristy and filming. Come to why Edinburgh for Halloween? Tell us more.
Also, how did you pronounce that word right now?
Edinburgh?
Okay. I always pronounce it as Edinburgh. And then I'm all of a sudden this week I'm hearing Edinburgh. Everyone's saying Edinburgh. And I'm like, oh, okay, I've never heard it pronounced that way until just right now. So
well, Chocahedron can set us straight.
Well, I know it's Edinburgh. No, I know it's Edinburgh because that's the proper term and proper.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
But I've never heard an American pronounce it Edinburgh.
Gotcha.
They have a fire festival for Samhain, which makes sense.
Cool.
So I guess Edinburgh. I mean, I know you want to go to Edinburgh for the Fringe Festival.
Well, we've discussed creating a show for the Fringe Festival in Edinburgh that we would put on. Maybe we can get Hamish to co-write it with you.
Queensport has just helped us with this. It's like something your bro Aiden at a party. Aiden, bro.
Nice.
I love that. There's a lot of naked people and stuff on fire. Well,
I love naked people.
And I love stuff on fire.
Oh man!
I actually just went to a fire festival. Like a burning
fire walk thing.
No, like a Burning Man, like East Coast Burning Man.
Okay, gotcha.
She just did that for 3 days.
Gotcha.
That's
so if it starts on the East Coast first, if we're going by the way the sun rises, then that would be more like a flicker man than a burning man.
Probably, yeah. It's more like an ember man.
Ember man. Okay. What was her experience, though? Do you know?
There was not a lot. There was no showering for 3 days.
Ooh.
Which sounds brutal.
Yeah, I mean that's really, really rough.
The power of craft compels you.
You would know. Yeah, it was definitely, but there was also a lot of sleeping on the ground, and there was also a lot of art going on.
Is that what we're calling?
That she said it was very artsy.
Okay, so real art. I thought you were trying to make a euphemism for sex.
No, also that happening, I'm sure. Lots of drugs, I think. But there was impromptu karaoke contest that she won, and
Here's my impression of Ashley when she finds out that there's going to be an impromptu karaoke contest. You ready? In fact, just feed me that line.
So, Ashley, there's going to be an impromptu karaoke contest if you'd like to join us.
Like, she is immediately in the zone because I would be that way. That would be I would be like, oh, karaoke.
I would be too. I performed karaoke on the last cruise I went on, and I did Fancy by Reba McEntire.
But when you say it like I perform karaoke on, it sounds like a sex act. Like I performed karaoke on Stewart last week,
That I guess it would sound that way if you add a person's name instead of a location. Yes.
I performed karaoke on the boat.
I mean, there is a whole sect of people who are attracted to inanimate objects, including their cars. So I guess someone should be married to their boat. My Strange Addiction would often do these exploitation episodes about a person who was married to their car or their Ferris wheel or things like that.
I do remember seeing something like that.
I think of Ferris wheel specifically because of the Ferris wheel episode of Dead End that I just watched recently.
Oh, right.
So I'm like, gotcha, the Ferris wheel. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Chunky Hidden recommended that Chris Grace has a few shows in Edinburgh this year, or Edinburgh.
Chris Grace has more than a few shows, 27 at least, because when you get selected and get in, and again, it might not be so much of a selection process as like, oh well, we can produce it, we have the money to do it, but you basically have to commit to doing like at least one show a day, I think, for 27 days or something. Maybe someone can let us know in the comments. But since you brought up Chris Grace is going to be our guest on the show to promote his appearance at Edinburgh Fringe Festival on July 17th. And he'll be on with the one and only Mark Eugene Garcia.
Yes.
Who we all know and love, of course, as Detective Mark Basim and Simon, but
Tyler from Art of Blowing It. If you love him, he's not very lovable on that show.
This is just a reminder that you can get this really rad shirt right here over at sidekicksupermarket.com.
And still priced, you can get it with a discount.
Oh, that's right. Let me pull up our discount code. There you go. Crewniverse Pride. And if you're new to the show today, we'll tell you a little bit about the Crewniverse. In fact, we figured that the easiest way to do that.
Also, just so you know,
you're wearing my shirt.
I'm wearing your shirt. I wore it also not just because it's your shirt, because
not mine, but my character
shirt. Yeah. But I also wore it because I know Hamish has such an affinity for red demons that I was like, well, let me make sure that I wear something that will make him feel comfortable and at home. So.
Nice. Okay, so speaking of Hamish, they are in the green room. We are going to get them here soon. It looks like they have a
red demon as well.
A red demon to show us. We will have them in the studio in just a moment after this little break that we're about to take. If I can find the video I just uploaded. There it is.
Okay, money shots, go boys, 2 minutes, places.
I can't believe I let Hunter talk me into this, especially along somebody like you. Dad, what are you doing?
You know, I dreamed a lot of things when I was in that coma for 6 months. One of those things with you, Anthony.
Cut! I think we got it.
Got it?
Yeah.
Hi. My name is Joshua R. Pangborn, and we are SideKick Productions. We are an independent production company dedicated to telling queer, fat-positive stories. Oh, thank you, Yolanda.
You're welcome, sweetie.
Could you get ready for the next scene?
Yeah, but can somebody tell me where that dildo water pistol is?
Oh, I saw it. I'll show you.
We're a group of mostly queer artists who are dedicated to telling the stories that we aren't seeing anyone else tell, with actors and artists who are often kept out of the spotlight.
Derek, I know I said it would be a dream come true to meet a real-life witch, but no, I'm not so sure.
Oh, gee, what was it? The impending torture that changed your mind?
Soon, the demonologist and the detective will be no more, and my house will be complete.
How much longer do I need to hold still?
Just one more take.
Demon Doctor, scene 76, take 93.
We each come with a diverse set of skills. And when we don't know how to do something, we teach ourselves.
Like how Paul became an award-winning makeup artist. Oh, hey, Josh.
Oh, or how Nakia became an award-winning composer and sound designer.
I've got this great idea for a new show. It's called Cricket Cabaret. It's a musical show.
Oh, I love it. I'm gonna write you some lyrics.
Okay, great.
Oh, hey, Mark.
Do it?
Could you change into your diaper?
Yeah, can I? I mean, if you want me to.
We wear a lot of hats.
I'm sure you can take another one.
Oh, he can take it.
But that's just all part of being an independent filmmaker.
Exactly.
Whoops, I dropped this. As we've grown, we pushed ourselves in front of and behind the camera, even producing our first feature-length musical, which I co-wrote with Nakia. Oh, hey, here are those lyrics you asked for Cricket Cabaret.
Everyone else sees so many different hues, a rainbow of colors from which they can choose. But in my world, the colors are gray. Am I just broken or differently made?
Loved it. But I have some notes. It's front and back.
Simon, I'm telling you, something's not sitting right with me in this case.
Well, Edward, that's because you slept with the main suspect. And he manipulated you into getting him off. Figuratively with the law, and literally with the climax. And now you're having second thoughts because you found the murder weapon in his sock drawer.
No, that's not it.
Car is full.
Was somebody looking for this earlier?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Whoops. We started with our queer soap opera, and have since branched into other genres, including horror and mockumentary. Oh, Emmy, are you sure this just isn't too risque?
Oh, Felix, have you seen the teen moms we've had to compete with in our time slot? Squirt me, Nana. Squirt me.
Anything for my granddaughter!
Oh, so wet.
Wiggling now.
Is it weird that this is turning me on?
Join the club, Oscar. Right?
Sorry. The batteries are dead.
The batteries are dead. Are you serious? The battery? Oh, we're still recording. We love working together, and we make mistakes like anyone does. That's what we do, and it's okay.
We are SideKick Productions. We are queer. We are fat. We are allies. We are people who have stories to tell, who want to share them with you. And we have so much more to bring to the world. So come with us and become a part of the Crooniverse we are creating.
We have so many domain names at this point. We have
really
like sidekicksupermarket.com, Yeah, is that right? Sidekicksupermarket.com.
Yep. Well,
Cruniverse.com.
SkeletonCrewTheSeries.com, theartblowingtheseries.com, DemonDoctor.com. But you keep telling me to buy these domains. He's like, get the domain. And I'm like, okay, I will get the domain.
Just in case. But
someone might make a show and be like, we want the domain. I mean, now look at Skeleton Crew on maybe Disney's gonna be like, I wish I had SkeletonCrewTheSeries.com.
And they want to pay you, right? Yeah.
And they want to pay me for it. And I'm like, you know what? Let's think about it. I can get that Disney money.
Well, thanks for watching, everybody. That is a promo video that we shot at the beginning of 2021? 2022. Gotcha. And we released it last year when we restarted what was originally season 2, and now we've kind of jumped into season 3, where we're doing these live streams every Monday night from 7 to 10 Eastern. And instead of the old way of doing it, where we just had usually like one or 2 guests and they kind of came in really quick, we decided to turn it into a podcast where we actually had a couple of guests that had some real time to get to talk to and really kind of highlight what they're doing to members of the Cruniverse out there, obviously. And also kind of when we do have guest overlap, let them kind of connect with each other. And it's been really, really fun so far this season. But I have to say the number, like probably easily in our top 5 people that were like, we have to ask to come on this season. We asked Hamish Steele to come on and in one email, and they immediately replied and said yes. And it's such a refreshing thing, because when you're hosting something like this and you're reaching out to people, even people that you would think, oh, they're part of our world, we're like world adjacent, like community adjacent. That is not always the case. So we are super duper excited to welcome to the show for the very first time, Hamish Steele.
Hello.
Hi. Hello. Thank you for having me. Am I coming through okay?
You are.
Perfect.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I was listening intently to all of your conversation about the heat wave in the UK. It's very warm. And so I have, I'm in like a tornado of fans.
Oh, gotcha.
I tried to lower them to the least noisy settings. So hopefully it's all good.
You're coming in great, and you've already got people excited to see you in the comments.
I thought what you were holding up was your phone case.
No, this was a bookmark that the publisher made, which I only have 2 of. So if anyone's like, oh, where can I buy them? I have no idea. But somewhere probably there's in like Barnes and Nobles, there's probably like a...
Sure. Well, now somebody will figure out they can put it on Etsy, so they'll just make their own and start selling them on Etsy.
I just to make it clear, because Netflix isn't making any merch and Union Square isn't making any merch,
right?
I'm totally cool with merch, and I buy so much of it. Like, you can't see it, but the thing I'm looking at is like a bunch of dead end like badges and posters and stuff, because I actually do have dead end stickers on Etsy on the back of my phone. Because like, why wouldn't you buy it? I know it seems like I'm a bit obsessed with myself, but it's like, I remember reading this thing that Matt Groening has like the biggest collection of like bootleg Simpsons. Because wouldn't it be hilarious if like you're walking through some, market in another country and there's a towel with your character like badly drawn on the side? Like, my dream is to have a character badly painted on the side of an ice cream truck. Like, that's what I want.
You've really made it. That's kind of the peak level. Yeah. That's funny. Well, you're talking to 2 people that are wearing shirts of our own merch. So
basically all the shirts I have in my wardrobe that are day-to-day shirts or shirts that of characters I've created. So I completely understand.
Look, you gotta do something with them, and if you've got whole boxes filled with shirts, you might as well wear one.
Yeah. Well, we've been very fortunate that we have a really cool collaborator and this fantastic graphic artist and designer, Matthew Teeter, who designed both this logo and this shirt that Josh is wearing, and the logo for the show, Demon Doctor, that's on there too. He's just really, really talented.
But I know what you're saying. Whenever somebody, because we get fans sometimes making fan art of the show and everything, and when I see that posted on Instagram, I'm like, oh my god, this is so cool. This is like, I did not make this. This did not come out of my head. This is well, like that right there is a great example.
Yeah, if I was in a different position, and if someone was making like loads more money than me, and I was just like an indie creator that hadn't. But like basically post having the TV show, I'm like, do what you like, because like I say, there's no official merchandise and there's clearly demand for it. So
yeah,
I know there's someone making an incredible like screen accurate Courtney plush toy.
Wow.
That I've seen. And I've tried to make some stuff happen. There's like a few dead-ended like kind of things that might come out eventually, but it's not like I don't know. There was a line of merch ready to go when the show dropped. Like,
right.
Yeah.
And if there was, I'm guessing that there are also legal, hurdles to kind of get over with all that stuff too.
Yeah. And this is just mine. I mean, like,
right. Yeah.
If Netflix comes for you, that's not me. That's a different story. But,
right.
I got loads of stuff. I got like a little, that's from the show kind of mug.
I love it.
But it's very much contained to this one little corner of my flat. Otherwise, when people come over, and it's just like, hey, my whole house is a museum. No, that's not it. But I get given loads of fan art at conventions, and I've like stuck them all on view to like make me sort of keep me going.
You need stuff like that.
Yeah, I'm currently drawing the 3rd book. So I'm sat here like every day. And just seeing all this stuff reminds me to keep going, and people care. So
I do think lots of people care, and I do want to get into the books, but I have to say it's really important for Josh to talk to you because he just finished the series last night, and he is like I think he's in that grieving period now where he's like, oh my god, what? And we've read, of course, online where you've said essentially that the television character story seems to have ended at this point, or it can't continue at this point, right? So with that being said, Josh, you had a few things I think that you wanted to ask Hamish about.
Well, not necessarily ask. It's just more like such a great job. I mean, it's really. I started watching the show about 3 weeks ago, and I the first couple episodes. I'm sort of very careful with animation because I don't usually have a lot of time because I do a day job and then I do my production company. So it's sort of like 80 hours a week is that. So whenever I watch something, it has to be something that's gonna be like, oh, great. And so animation has always been like something I'm careful with because I want something that's gonna be worth my time to watch and everything. And I had heard about Dead End, but I hadn't had a lot of people talk to me about it like locally. And so then all of a sudden everyone just started talking about it locally, and I'm like, oh, okay, so I have to add this to my list. And then Nakia said that you're coming on the show, and I was like, well, perfect timing. I need to just make sure I watch it now. And it grabs you from the very first second and makes you want to watch the whole thing. And then finding out the last episode and getting to the conclusion, and then it's like it's not a conclusion, and I'm like, no. But it was. Which I again, having worked in this industry the way I do, I understand the frustration of having a story and not necessarily feeling like it's completed and all that. Do you? Because I'm planning to get the books next and read them. How much of the story that we saw in the animated series can be or will be continued in another format?
I think when the 3rd book is out, you can like read the whole story in full and sort of see, by sort of seeing how we adapted the first 2 books, kind of see how we would have adapted the 3rd book. Because I think the 3rd book will give people the answer to certain questions about like where the story was going to go. But the versions of the characters in the show and the books are slightly different. So you'd have to imagine that there's a certain amount of adaptation that would have been done. And like one thing that was really important to me when writing the third book was to make sure that it was the end of the books. And like I wasn't getting too distracted and confused by like what the show was setting up. But there's a lot of similarities. Our third season of the show would have covered a few plot points from book 2 and then what book 3 would have been. And you know, I've said this on a few kind of podcasts and interviews and stuff. Like, I obviously am I was like really devastated that the show got cancelled. But I have to just kind of hold on to, like, I'm really grateful that it happened. And, you know, there was, because I knew it was cancelled before the second season came out.
Oh, wow.
And so there was part of me that was like, I kind of wish the second season, I kind of almost would prefer that the second season didn't come out, because I think the first season has more of a satisfying ending, I suppose. It leaves you with less need for the story to continue.
Yeah.
But that was, you know, that was something that we chose when things seemed a bit more optimistic, and we felt that we'd get more seasons, and we were told to like just go forward as if you are getting a third season. We did do like a writer's room for season 3. It was something that we like worked on, but yeah, it just didn't happen. Right. And like I'm not like legally allowed to even mention like our viewing figures or anything, but they were impressed by them. Like, for a Netflix show that's not based on an IP, that's a 2D animation, that's like a British production and something that they've acquired rather than something they're making in-house, they were like really impressed by the numbers. We pitched it in 2018, and then this whole conversation about season 3 happened in 2022. And the whole industry had changed, and Netflix had changed, and they needed to focus on big IPs and things that were bigger hitters. So we left on pretty good terms, despite everything. I sometimes sound a little bit like a shill when I'm like defending Netflix, but it's like I'm still someone working in the animation industry. They're still the only studio that's greenlit one of my shows, and the experience of making the show and working on it was 99% wonderful. You know, there's someone I would happily pitch to again, even if like there's still some things like, you know, we should have done that differently, but that's just something I've learned and will hopefully apply to whatever I do next.
Well, there's so many politics involved in making a show anyway, and that they're completely outside of the control of whether or not people like the show, or it's popular or not. I think that's there's just so many people involved that have to say yes, basically.
Yeah, and like I see sometimes the fans being like F Netflix in my replies, or I'm so angry, and I'm like, yeah, okay, you know, they're a big company, but the actual individuals I work with are really nice. I've seen some people who like have a successful show and it gets cancelled, and their immediate response is to like burn every bridge and kind of like, you know, there's a certain amount of self-preservation in me being like, okay, but you know, I've jumped on from this, and the thing is, I feel like I'm in a lucky position to have the books, and
for sure,
like I said, even though the books and the show are different, I'm hoping that when people like read the final page of the books and close the book, they kind of know that Dead Endia has like Dead Endia and Dead End Paranormal Park have like found their ending, that there is kind of some closure, and like it's the ending of the main story, but like I'm still keen to do other sequels or spin-offs or whatever, so
right.
Also, I mean, Netflix is. I think Netflix made a show with a trans main character who wasn't also conventionally Hollywood size and everything, and that's pretty awesome, I think.
Yeah, I mean, Netflix did, or we did.
I mean, you made the show. I should say that you made the show, but Netflix also allowed it. So I was like,
yeah, it's kind of interesting. I was so scared all throughout the production that you never quite know how people are going to take it. There's been a few shows where like the trailer drops and they become like the laughing stock of Twitter for the day.
Mm-hmm.
And I just constantly had like anxiety, panicky dreams and like about, and I've had friends who've like made shows and they just become, an internet punching bag. And it's like, even if something is, it's like I see so many people who are like, support animators, fight for better conditions, and then are also mad that like something wasn't redrafted and reworked until it was perfection. Like, anyway, so basically, I was like so scared of what reaction would be, and also the fact that it would come across as like, oh, Netflix is trying to do this.
Oh,
like, it comes from a pretty genuine place. Like, one criticism the show sometimes gets, which I always laugh at, is like, this looks like a Tumblr comic from 2014. And I'm like, it was. Like, it's an adaptation of 2014 Tumblr. And, it has Tumblr noses and like, and what I'm trying to say is that the world of webcomics have always been kind of diverse, and when I was writing the comics and writing Barney, it didn't even like cross my mind that this was something unique, because there are tons of webcomics with characters like Barney. It's just that when it became a show and then I started doing loads of press about like, this is so new and bold and exciting, it was about when I was like, oh, I guess we did do something kind of unique. Also, not to be a bit too doom and gloomy, but like, making the character in 2014 versus, or earlier, I created him in like 2010, maybe, is when I started like developing the initial things for the show. Making that character then, and then debuting him on a TV show in 2021 or 2. I'm losing track now. Everything's different, and like what a trans protagonist means in a kids show means something different. It's both like long overdue and also more, I guess, politically sensitive. And I'm not, not from me, but like it becomes part of a debate, and that was never the intention. It was just like characters based on my friend group, and as soon as the show got announced, there was like petitions to get it banned and things like that. So,
you mentioned it's based on your friend group, and my husband Robert is also a big fan. And his question was, "Are these people, these characters, based? For instance, Josh can't, like, even though he might try to deny it, there's a lot of each of the people that we play in these shows. It's almost impossible for him not to write our own kind of things into him. So were they based on people that you actually knew?
Yeah, but like based on me, like deep down, all the characters are me.
Yeah.
I think a lot of writers do that.
By the way, so
yeah. I was talking to my boyfriend who has a comic. He's called Luke Keeley. There's a comic called Dogs on Dates, and it's these two dogs dating each other. And so there's like certain elements of the comic where I'm like, is that inspired by our date? And he was like, kind of, but this is a comic about me dating myself. And I feel like Barney and Norma are two versions of me. I've sometimes said that I think Barney is the version I want to be, and Norma's version I think I am. So Norma is a lot more neurotic and anxious and like panicky about things. Barney's a bit more impulsive and you know, everyone sort of likes him, and he's kind of the version that I think I want to be. And like Barney, originally, one of the reasons I created him was I had got fat. I was kind of skinny when I was growing up, and then I became fat, and I wanted to basically draw a character who I could like dress up and look cool and like be what I wanted to look like, essentially.
Wow, that's really cool.
So like, yeah, I had a lot of fun just like designing fun outfits for him. I basically dressed like him, and so it was, and then there's characters who you don't realize have any part of you. You're not consciously writing from your experiences for characters like Pugsley or Courtney, and then you kind of look at them back and realize, oh no, I am basically writing that. Like I'm autistic, and Norma is the character always brought up as like the autism representation, but like Courtney is autistic. Like Courtney's storyline is like not fitting in and being, you know, and not understanding like human stuff and like
not picking up on social cues and stuff.
Yeah, and it's like I wasn't like Norma is me consciously writing that. Courtney is me unconsciously writing that, and like why do like I think it's funny with a show with like a trans lead and an autistic character and all this stuff. But a lot of the like trans autistic fans of Dead End point at Courtney and go like, "That one's me," and like Courtney's like the popular character. I mean, they're all popular. I actually like when I see fan art. There's a real equality with like which characters are popular, which I think is nice. So yeah, it's like representation overtly and intentionally, and then also just like the show itself is just kind of from a perspective of like queer, like neuroatypical sort of mess. I don't know.
Yeah, you touched on something here I think that's really important and a real parallel between what Josh has been doing for the better part of, I guess, 10 years now. And certainly one of the reasons that I was attracted to Josh and wanted to work with him is, you know, the characters or should I say the stories that you create, they do have representation of trans people, of people of size, people of color, different, you know, sexual spectrum. Everything is kind of out there, but it's never this kind of like, we're going to focus on this, and this is the reason why. It's like this story exists, and these are the people in it. And that to me is also very powerful in a representation way that somebody who I meet fans of Skeleton Crew a lot who they immediately identify with so many of these characters because they just seem normal. It's not like there's something, you know, you're not trying to point out terrible things about them, or you're not trying to say like that's their whole existence.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I think things are a little better now, but when I created the comic, I was getting so frustrated by, the fact that we couldn't go on like fun, silly adventures. I think there's kind of power in the fact that Barney is the like audience surrogate everyman like archetype. He's the one that the general audience is meant to relate to, because even though like on paper it's like, oh, he's, you know, a trans teenager who, and like it sounds like he's not like a cop played by Chris Pratt or something. For some reason everyone's meant to be able to relate to. But the thing is, like, everyone has had disagreements with their family, and almost everyone has felt a sense of like found family with their friends. So there's actually like a lot of relatability to him. It's just the specifics might not be universal. Yeah. And so I kind of decided a while ago that I would like never never work on something that didn't have a queer protagonist. You know, that's not entirely true in the sense that like every single job I've had to like do ads and work on small things, but everything that I created or that I like have any kind of central position on, I really want that to be the point of view, because I've been in meetings where people like I had a really bad experience on a show which didn't end up happening, where people were talking. I like mentioned that I wanted queer representation, but people were talking about it as if I wasn't in the room, and that it was these like, how do we figure out how to do this without offending everyone? And I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? Like, it just made me so annoyed to repeatedly be in rooms where people wanted my idea, but it was implied that it was inappropriate for me to be part of the world we were creating. Like, it's just makes you feel like you are a creep, or in some way like they're scared of you in some way, or grossed out by you. And like I said, like they would just say the stuff as if I wasn't in the room, or not even thinking how it made me feel. And I think that's true of so many like marginalized groups, where people are talking about you as if it's like, how do we present this person to children without destroying their minds? And it's like, have you ever met a kid? They like are so open-minded that their brains are learning everything.
Right.
So it's like everything they meet, it's like they meet someone who has a disability. They meet someone of, you know, any kind of experience that they haven't had, and they're like, cool, that's a different kind of person. Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
And it's so frustrating to like, I don't want to like always drag them, but it's an easy target at this point. But the whole like Disney like first gay character thing, where they're like constantly making this first gay character. And the problem is, and I know this because I've got friends who work at Disney. I know that they have these huge like Zoom seminars with like a company that comes in to tell them like how to write gay characters, and they list all the like bad tropes and the things you shouldn't do and the things you should do. And it's like straight person approved idea of what a queer character can be. And it boils down to the fact that like, well, we can't do anything, so they're going to have to be like one line cameo in the background. And it's so frustrating, because so Dead End doesn't come from that place. And it's one of the reasons I was worried going in, but I think it's one of the reasons people appreciate it, is that we knew that Barney was not going to be the perfect representation for everyone. And I have seen some people say that, oh, he's a blue hair and pronouns, he's all these bad tropes and whatever. And I'm like, okay, but this is Barney, and this is one. And let's make some more, and let's keep going. And I think it's like my hope that in like 10 years, people will look back on Barney and think like, well, that was like trans rep 101 and like is really outdated, and we're not going to do that again. I would hope that we have progressed. There's stuff about Barney's story that I do think is like, we didn't go far enough. And I think we went far. And if we got more seasons, we would have done tons more stuff, but there's just certain things about it where like it gets mentioned a few times and it's like part of his story, but like, and some people might watch the show and be like, I don't like that he has problems with his parents, or I don't like that he runs away from home. I'm like, okay, yep, I think there should be another show with another trans character where that doesn't happen, and that he has a great relationship with his family, and like, but that's just not our show. And I think, you know, sorry, I'm going on a rant, but
it's okay.
It's like I'm currently pitching other shows, and it's like I felt a real hunger for this kind of rep when we were pitching it in 2018, but like it was the time. But now it's tougher. Oh, my dog came in.
Your little doggy.
Oh, he's in a sunbeam.
Oh,
he's hard
good
to
for
see
him.
He's also like the polar opposite of Pugsley. He's like, this little. He's like a little ring wraith. He's a sort of
That's so cute.
He's a skinny little whippet. But yeah, as I'm pitching queer shows now, I definitely see more hesitation. Like more people are. I mean, we complained about rainbow capitalism so much that now they're like, "Ooh, we can't do rainbow Starbucks anymore," and it's like. It's actually kind of scary because it's like, oh, I took all that stuff for granted and didn't realize how much of a little safe space feeling it gave me. And as I'm pitching shows, they're like, oh, well, there's now a much more vocal backlash to the stuff being kids media, so let's downplay that.
I was thinking this. I was actually thinking something very similar yesterday because my boyfriend is heavily into the NHL. He really loves hockey, and I don't understand it myself. But I've learned over the years. But the NHL just announced that they are no longer doing Pride jerseys anymore. For years they were doing Pride Night where all the players would wear a Pride jersey before the game during warm-ups and all that. And then as of yesterday, they've announced that they will no longer be doing Pride jerseys, and it feels really bad. It's like, okay, I know that this was just meant to be rainbow capitalism, as you said, but also at least they were doing something, and now they're doing nothing, and then it becomes this really rough, frustrating thing now, where I feel like we've taken a step backwards.
Yeah, it's a reminder that of performative allyship. It's the idea that, if you're an ally to someone and they're having rocks thrown at you and you're not getting hurt, then you're not standing close enough. That it's like, as much as I praised Netflix at the start, and they were pretty good overall, I remember like telling them, I was the one that told them that there was like, protests against the show, that what's his face, the guy that sounds like Kermit, who's racist. I can't remember.
There's a lot of people that could apply to, just to be fair. So.
Is it Ben Shapiro?
Oh yes.
Oh, okay. The racist Kermit. He like tweeted out the trailer being like, "This is what your kids are watching," and I'm like, "Well,
I remember that.
Actually, not enough of the kids are watching because we need better viewing figures." But thanks for the free promo. Right. And I was the one that was telling Netflix, like, I'm kind of worried for my crew. I'm kind of worried for our cast. I think, when we hired Zach, who plays Barney, he had already been he's in Spider-Man Far From Home, and as a small role, but it was like, he has done like an interview circuit, but he had to get like, a bit of warning and training that like, it could be that everyone suddenly sends death threats your way because you're trying to indoctrinate kids. And like, Netflix, I guess, were a little surprised that any of that was happening, where it was like my first thought about the show being made. And I don't know. It's like, sorry, I'm ranting a lot, but
it's okay.
As I go on to pitch new shows, I notice the conversation's a bit different. That people, when it comes to representation of queer characters in animation, it's a lot less gung-ho and a lot more like, Disney seems to think that, well, whenever we do a gay character, all the bigots complain and all the gays complain because we didn't do it good enough, so let's just not try. But
I mean, the way they basically just sentenced Strange Worlds to death by not marketing it at all. And it had such a great queer character in it, and it really hurt my feelings.
It's interesting because I think the whole joke about the first gay character thing is that they're really waiting for one of them to like kick off and be embraced and be remembered, because I don't know if anyone even remembers Strange World, and it's been out for less than a year.
Yeah.
And
so sad.
So now they like, well, no one remembers that. So now next time we can try the first gay character again. And I don't know. I mean, I say all this. What the position they're in is tricky because they have so many queer Disney fans and creators, and so many like iconic, historic queer contributors to the.
Uh-oh. We lost Hamish. Uh-oh. Oh. There you are. We got you back. We got you back. There you go. Are you there?
Hello.
Wait.
Oh dear.
Uh-oh. We're going to give Hamish a moment here.
Hello.
Oh, we can hear you and see you again.
Okay, perfect.
Disney were trying to silence me.
What?
We're
They have
getting
eyes
reported.
everywhere, so
We're being tarnished in the media.
I think, but all I was saying is that I know lots of queer people who work there, and you know, they are trying in some ways. I just everyone in every corporation seems a bit more hesitant these days, and when actually we need a lot more support than ever. So,
well, to Disney's credit, at least this is the first year that they have officially embraced Pride at the parks, which I do think is a big step for them in a lot of ways, and an important step right now, really, I think, more than ever. So I appreciate that, but I'm still very fucking pissed about Strange World, because I just thought it was a great little story, and it was so beautifully drawn, and it was just such a bummer to me. But since we're talking about Disney, this gives me, I'm gonna do a little stretching here and stretch to segue into something else that we wanted to talk about. Disney Plus, of course, will be airing the new Doctor Who in the United States. And two things I want to say about Doctor Who before we talk a little bit about it. Number one, last night I rewatched and sent to Josh your as every episode of Doctor Who from 2005 to 2022.
Thank you for watching that. That was one of the, that is my magnum opus. It took a really long time to make, and more people should watch it.
I wanted to ask you how long it took you to go through all of the episodes that had been aired up to that point. What was that like?
Well, okay, so I basically just rewatched all of slowly.
And made notes?
No, yes, actually. So I had an Excel spreadsheet of every episode of Doctor Who. I already know every episode pretty well. I've watched all of them multiple times. I think the later ones had to be more broad strokes. So like there's some early episodes where the clip I chose is based on like one line of dialogue or one little tiny moment. The later ones is like they mentioned witches, I'm gonna put that in the witch episode. So yeah, I just rewatched all of just keeping an ear out for, like, I already have a kind of Doctor Who special interest, so already in conversations I'm mentally like, that's like the episode of Doctor Who, that's like the episode of Doctor Who. So it was fairly easy from that point. And then there was like so many clips which were like, well, that could be any episode. So there would be like Katya talking about like time is not a straight line, it's a loop. And so like that could have been in multiple episodes. Then I found one episode which didn't really have anything else. There's literally one clip which I use in the thing of them like in the TARDIS flying around. It was just so much fun. I mean, like it's a real intersection of like a couple of niche things. I know they're both big, but like there's only a few of us in the middle.
Well, I sent it to Ron Hill.
Okay.
Ron Hill is the one of the co-editors of and he had never seen it, and he immediately replied back and said this was brilliant. He wasn't super familiar with Doctor Who, but he had seen several of the episodes of the newer Doctors, and it really he was able to know which parts were which. And I thought that was really funny. He was really taken back by it.
So it is kind of inspired by a different video called Every Episode of Doctor Who as a Clip from Always Sunny.
Oh wow!
Which is amazing, and you should watch if you are familiar with Doctor Who, but also as Always Sunny thing. It's really
Josh is a huge fan.
And that has so like the way I'm inspired by that is that like sometimes it's like there's a clip of one of them dressed as a cat, so it's in the cat episode of Doctor Who. But there's other times where it's just like that one for Day of the Doctor, which has Matt Smith, David Tennant, and John Hurt, is Danny DeVito just walking up and just saying, "What are you two dickbags doing here?" And like, that's like, and my one for Day of the Doctor is the episode of where they had Willem on.
Yes.
So it's just three of them. In the desert just waiting, and I'm like, that's kind of, I mean, one thing I find funny about the video, it's so funny to talk about this on this, but I obviously clearly don't, I've never like talked about this before, this weird video I made, is you have sometimes a split second to see the Doctor Who episode, understand what they're talking about, and then sometimes like Trixie's the Doctor, sometimes Cartier's the Doctor, sometimes both of them are like just talking about the episode. Some of them are really lazy. Like there's one clip for Vampires of Venice, Cartier's like, they did an episode about vampires once. I almost lost my mind. Like it's just that. I think one of them is a bit mean. There's like an episode I don't like, and it's just Trixie and Cartier being like, this was bad. This was bad.
Which one was that?
It's an episode called Sleep No More.
Oh yeah.
And I'm a massive Capaldi era defender. I like always tell people to go back and check it out if they haven't, because I know that's when a lot of people drifted off, and then some people came back for Jodie. But even that, I can't. And I've got friends who love it. I can't defend that one. But you know, it hopefully is clear it comes from a place of love.
Yeah. Well, it's a lot. It would have taken so much time, Hamish, that it has to be clear to any fan of either show. So I wanted to bring that up, and then I wanted to bring up the fact that because we've been talking about all this representation, one of the things that Josh got to do last year was he was had his first short story that was published in a book of short stories. And it was called The Book of Queer Saints, which the whole thing is basically stories that revolve around queer villains. And it sounds like we're going to get a queer villain on the new season of Doctor Who. So I was curious your thoughts about Jinx Monsoon's casting.
I mean, I think, first of all, she's just actually an incredible actor and incredible singer. If they do that, the costume has lots of musical notes. I'm like,
yeah.
So it's like one thing I've really been excited about with the new incoming era is they keep announcing guest stars, and they're almost all big queer like names, like Jinx, Neil Patrick Harris, and Jonathan Groff. Then we have Yasmin Finney from Heartstopper, and like
I didn't see that.
It's like a real clear declaration of like, this era is for us. It's Emma Stone with the Wells for Boys. It's like everything else is for you, and this one thing. It's like so funny to go from the big genre shows being Star Wars and Marvel, where it's like, maybe one day there'll be some queer rep. Oh, there was a character just there, or whatever. To go from like everyone in the show is now gay. The Doctor as a character has been gender changing and had romantic interest with everyone now. So it's like, okay, the main character is canonically queer. It's been gay for a while. It's kind of, I know Russell has sometimes ruffled some feathers, and he like he was like disparaging of like Loki for sort of mentioning that he was bi but not doing anything with it. But like he does put his money where his mouth is, and like from season 1 brought the show back and like had queer characters. And I think, yeah, I mean, of course I'm excited. And I think Russell knows exactly how to like make a drag queen a villain and make it not a drag queens are scary kind of thing.
Right.
I mean, we don't even know what Jinx is playing. Human, alien, robot. We don't know if she's going to be like a non-binary human or a drag queen or what.
It's giving me goosebumps actually talking about it. I'm so excited.
I also am I'm glad that they just announced, oh, like I don't know how much you followed Doctor Who during the Jodie Whittaker era, but like they were so secretive to the point where I listened to Doctor Who podcasts and it would be like a year of them being like, well, there's nothing to talk about because we have no idea. You know, we're just praying for like a clip or a picture or something. To this, it's like every week we get like
a reveal.
Here's a new actor. This is their costume. They're playing a villain in episode 8, and it's like okay, slow down. Every week we get like a new Ncuti Gatwa outfit, and all my cosplay friends are like, "Oh God!"
Yeah, like this Tom of Finland look. Yeah, that Tom of Finland look he was rocking the other day.
Yeah, it's which I think is great. I mean, it's a 6-year-old show. I think any way that they refresh it is good. I think the fact the Doctor like seems to just not have an outfit anymore, and just is like his thing is that he's fashionable, which I think is cool. And I like that. I think a time travel show where the main character like dresses up for the period can be like, it's fine, but I like that every outfit the Doctor has still looked kind of incongruous. Like there's an episode they're filming in the 60s. He's not dressed like people dressed in the 60s. He's dressed like people on the cover of Vogue dressed in the 60s.
Right.
He's in like, he's got his afro, he's got his like blue suit. I'm sure that like everyone else in that episode is going to look really like dour and humdrum compared to him. So excited to see if the TARDIS is also just like
I hadn't even thought about that. Yeah.
Or like, and it's funny, it's like there's a few Doctors like the third Doctor and so Pertwee and Capaldi, they like barely had outfits, but they felt thrown together. It was like Capaldi he had like a style, but it really felt like he doesn't care about fashion, and that's why he doesn't really have an outfit. Whereas I think it's funny to have the Doctor just be like, I don't know, taking an hour to get ready before they go to like, it's like it's fine. And I'm excited. I mean, we don't know anything about Ruby, the companion, either.
Right.
And they're always like so central to the eras. And Russell, I think, is 3 for 3 with companions and is really good at introducing them. I'm excited to meet her family. Like, you know, Jackie Tyler is iconic, Wilf is iconic. So it's like I had problems with that era at the time. I'm like an old school fan, and like those things I don't really like. I'm not a big fan of like the end of time and kind of how things ended. And but in the sense that I'm also like I like all the eras. It's not that I dislike any of them. It's that I have criticisms and whatever. But I've like missed him. You know, I've missed some of the. As a showrunner myself, he was the first showrunner I was aware of. I used to buy like one of my most treasured items. I actually have it on the shelf. Is this making of season 1 of Doctor Who, and it's just filled with interviews and like. I bought that in 2005. I was about 14 or 15 and learned how to run a show. And it was the first thing I don't know. I look up to him in a showrunner sense. He's such a showman. I used to listen to all the commentaries of the episodes, and it always begins with like, hello, faithful viewer. And I think the previous showrunner, Chris Chibnall, who I'm not going on any kind of tirade against his era, but it was clear, whether by choice or the BBC or something, he wasn't the most forthcoming and talkative about the era. He's done lots of interviews since, and I find him really fascinating, and he does clearly put a lot of thought and care into his episodes, but he's not the great showman. I don't know, and I think basically between Russell leaving and coming back, TV has changed, and you have people like Kevin Feige and these sort of big, not that he's larger than life. Kevin Feige's an extremely like boring man, but these like central like you are the god of this universe,
right?
And we're gonna go up on Comic-Con and excite people. Like that didn't quite exist in time. We sort of had Joss Whedon, R.I.P., but we had the like. I just think he's watched TV change,
right,
and has always predicted it. There's so many interviews of him talking about this is what the future of TV is going to be, and then it comes true. And I just think he's like, Doctor Who deserves to be that. He like loves Doctor Who so much. He wants to make sure that it like lasts forever and doesn't miss this kind of era of content, you know.
Right.
I think there's something about what he's doing though that I think he's changed a little bit as well. I think he's become more unapologetically queer.
100%.
I mean, I've always enjoyed everything he's done, and I discovered Doctor Who through New Who. The Ninth Doctor was my first education of the Doctor, basically.
Technically mine too, because Robert kind of forced me into it. Yeah.
And then since then, I mean, I devoured every one of his seasons of Doctor Who, and then I mean, just last year I think I watched It's a Sin. Everything he's done is just so it's gotten progressively queerer and more embracing of an identity that he's foisting, I guess is the right word, on the mainstream, and not allowing it to sort of just say we're gonna tiptoe. I think he's just saying no, it's time to just blow down these walls and have it happen.
I agree. I'm like I said, I wasn't the biggest fan of how his first era ended, but I'm not excited about that Russell coming back. I'm excited about the writer of It's a Sin and Years and Cucumber and all these things being the new showrunner of Doctor Who. I think he has become a better writer. He's also you don't forget about Doctor Who. If you're someone who has spent your whole childhood and teenage and 20s like coming up with your own ideas for Doctor Who, like he did, and then you get to run it for 4 years and then leave, you don't stop coming up with ideas for Doctor Who. He's had 15 years. Like, it's been a long time.
Oh my god, has it been that long?
Like, yeah, I mean,
wow.
One of the characters in the 60th special is playing Donna's daughter, and she's 16.
Oh,
and it's like crazy. And like the new companion, Millie Gibson, who plays her, she was born the same week that Billie Piper was cast as Rose.
Wow.
So it must be weird for, you know, Russell TV is also a much older man, and I know, you know, I think he's going to encourage young talent joining the show as well. I don't think he's a gatekeeper in that sense. I'm just excited. I mean, I'm always excited about Doctor Who. I'm always excited about any new era, but it feels like it's been a while since we've been like genuinely encouraged to be excited. And I think the show is at its best when it's super popular. I think it gets bolder. It gets we'll see. I think we're also just lucky actually to get one. I think he's great.
We normally have a second guest that we'd be bringing on in about 5 minutes, and then we'd have some overlap. But since we don't have a second guest today because of the, you know,
I can stay.
All that would be great if you could hang out for a minute. We just want to take a quick break for our viewers at home. So we're going to just run a quick ad, and everybody can take a quick 2-minute bathroom break.
Or watch the ad.
What? Which one?
Or watch the ad.
Or watch the ad. Yeah. This is the trailer for season 5 of Skeleton Crew, which included the musical episode, and we're going to talk about musical episodes very, very soon. So let's take a watch.
Oh, hey. How was the flight?
It was great. Thanks for meeting me at the airport.
Uh-oh.
Sir, you look stressed. Would you like a relaxing massage and blowjob?
Yes.
It's like a house of cards, and if I blow the wrong way, it's all just gonna come crashing down.
I'm worried about me and Anthony, Pop.
What's that for?
Well, we're living together. Well, we love each other, but we're just not a team anymore.
I get it. Adulting is really, 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 really hard.
I've decided I know what I'm going to do with the rest of my life.
So you've heard the story about my killer day.
Heard it. I live for it.
I live my life. And I don't think that you could say that about yourself.
I am tired of giving you sage advice only to have you rebuke me.
Last night we played Hide the Rattle, and I still haven't found it.
Oh, this is a gay bar.
I'm Zach. LCHJD, you sign up.
Why? I mean, hi.
All of you are idiots. Except you. I'll leave you all to figure out who I mean.
I wouldn't lie to him. I don't see any reason to hide the truth from my friends, family, and loved ones.
I know the owners. Almost arrested most of them at some point. They're a great bunch.
That way of life gets old.
That way of life? Or just you?
I guess it's good that I have such a great sense of self-confidence.
I'm looking for a real bear god. Who changed the light bulb in the sex spot? It's way too bright in there.
Don't you remember the good old days of playing male prostitute in the backyard with your buddies?
It's only prostitute now. Gender's dead.
Well, Gender is Dead and season 5 is already out. So every time the end of that happens, I'm like, oh my goodness, it's already here. We've already passed this time. It blows my mind. It's been that long. If you're just joining us, welcome back to Sidekick Power Hour. My name is Nakia. This is Joshua R. Pangborn. Our guest this week is the incredibly talented and super duper big Doctor Who fan, Hamish Steele. Hello. Hamish, before we took that break, we were talking about Doctor Who and how kind of I love what you said, like this era is for us, like this is it, and you both were talking about showrunners. I didn't have any, aside from being on The Voice and watching reality TV being and live TV be produced in that way. I've never had any experience, working in a show that had to be, put together, storyboarded, all of this kind of stuff. So when I first met Joshua, it was actually filming my cameo for season 4 that then led to me ending up having a part in season 5. But when I met him that day on set, that was our second time meeting face to face, because we met the night before, right?
Yes, at a birthday party.
As
you so often do. So.
And I marveled at how resourceful Joshua was at, we were in one location and we basically shot 6 different locations in that one location by just moving corners and changing lighting. And I'm curious, when you first, especially when you were first working on the original cartoon Hangover short, and in that era, did you find that you were having to just grab anything that you could? How would you describe your experience as trying to run things without having Netflix money, putting together projects?
I actually enjoy that kind of variety in my life. I felt always very lucky that I've been able to make a show with Netflix, and then I also get to make comic books and zines and things, and I enjoy both. There's definitely a lot of fun in kind of making a zine and not answering to anybody, making the tiniest little comic book. But to me, the money side of things, well, it's not that it rarely came up, I just didn't deal with it. I was aware of the budget and what what we couldn't do or and stuff like that. But to me, it was more about the big difference is collaboration. I mean, the original YouTube short was me and about 4 or 5 other animators, and a bit of supervision from the Cartoon Hangover, but like not a whole lot. They helped with casting. They did some stuff, but we just made it and delivered it. Whereas on Dead End, it was like a crew of over 200 people. We had like a big Slack. It was made almost entirely in lockdown, so we like talked. I didn't meet everyone until the wrap party.
Wow.
And it was a real like, wow, there's so many people have worked on the show, but that's part of the thrill. Like, there's some projects of mine where I'm like, I don't want anyone to touch. I want this to be a comic, and this is really personal to me. And then there's others where I'm like, this will benefit so much from everyone's contributions. I loved having a writer's room. Like, up until the show, I had been the only one that had written Dead End yet. And as much as I like have the characters based on myself, so there's only so much my experiences can really extend. So having a writer's room that really reflects the show in its entirety was amazing. On the first day, we just told each other all our coming out stories and like cried, and just sort of ripped apart the books a little bit. And like, we got into them and said, what do we want to take? What do we want to add? What new perspectives have we in the room? So
I love that.
Yeah, currently I'm not working on a show. I've got stuff I'm pitching, but I'm currently in a like, I miss that. I want a big show. I want a whole crew again.
Right.
I'm sure the second the show comes, I'm like, I want to just work on something on my own. Okay. So I feel grateful I can do both.
That's awesome. Well, we want to talk about the books because you right now have some limited edition books out, or special edition. Is that what they're called?
Yeah, they're not limited. They're actually never been more available. But yes, I have. They're out. Woo! So these have been published before, but the original. There I am. The original publisher. It's a much smaller UK publisher, and as soon as the show basically got announced, they've been sold out for like a year. So I have a new publisher. They now should be on. I went to my local bookstore yesterday and saw them on the shelf. So
yay,
they should be around. I do have some signed copies of the second book on my store if you follow all my links. But yeah, I'm now just working on the third book. And it's a nice break between shows.
Sure.
Do you have an ETA on the third book?
It will be next summer. So they wanted to release them, the first two, this summer and then next summer. So it's like, it's around about the same time next year.
So it's not a Winds of Winter situation with Game of Thrones. So we can.
It's coming.
We have a date. And that's good.
I have drawn the final panel of Dead End.
Oh wow.
When I think about that I started this in 2010, it did feel kind of strange. I thought I'd feel really emotional, but it felt a little bit more like I'm not done yet. So there's hints of what I would do if I got a fourth book, but I don't. It's not the same kind of thing as the show. It's not like a big cliffhanger. This is an ending. I'll leave it for a while, but maybe we'll come back one day.
I love that. I love that you know, the characters in that world kind of have the ability to live on, at least in any instance, maybe. But as long as we know that there are always going to be stories being told somewhere, well, I think people, or could be told, I think people will be much happier. Josh, recently, I don't know if you saw in that opening promo that we did before we brought you on, but there's a show that is a spinoff of one of Josh's first show, Skeleton Crew, that we haven't even got to because we're in a different show because Josh won't stop writing and shooting things. But
bored easily. So
the idea that because I heard you mention earlier the possibility of like a possible spinoff of some of these other characters. You know, the idea of just spending a lot more time with Courtney is so exciting.
It's funny. I mean, back when the show got picked up by Netflix and I thought it might be the biggest show in the world, I came up with some ideas for spinoffs. In book 3, there is one panel, or maybe 2 panels towards the end, that are essentially like backdoor pilots. You sort of there's kind of a montage of like where all the characters are now, and one of them is so ridiculously like, and this character went off to do this thing. It's like, okay, hey. But I've been reading the original Dragon Ball this year, and loving it. And I'd love to make something like Dragon Ball Z or Steven Universe Future, or something that's like a coda, or a like, this is what the characters did in their 30s, or
right.
But I think there needs to be some kind of gap, and I know the fan base, if we can maintain it, you know, they're making so much fan art and stuff out there, so, and fanfic. I don't read fanfic.
I was gonna say there's fanfic out there for sure.
Yeah. So I'm kind of excited once the story is done because I don't read fanfic because of it's weird if like they're writing stories and then it links up with mine and it feels like I stole it or that kind of stuff. But I think
Weird Al doesn't listen to pitches for songs either, by the way.
Yeah. But maybe I will a little bit once the 3rd book's out and I can kind of see what people like.
That to me, as somebody that grew up reading Rocky Horror fanfic, the idea of having created something that people write fanfic about, that seems so exciting and so satisfying. It seems. Does it feel that way?
Yeah, I mean, I come from fandom. I've been writing a Super Mario College AU secretly for years. So I love all that stuff. I could never be like weirded out by it or like how people interpret characters. I've never seen any fan art or anything where I'm like, ooh, that's strange, that's unusual.
Right.
I'm just like, cool, rad. We're at that stage. Someone sent me to like the most like crack ship like AU thing between 2 characters who one of them isn't even in the show, they just in the book, and they're like the Discord wanted me to show you this, I'm so sorry. And I'm like, I have been on the internet since like 1998. I'm good. I have seen things.
Right. Yeah.
You are young. Life has been kind to you. It's fine. So I'm happy to have made anything that like creates that kind of stuff.
And I honestly think your fan base is going to grow because with it being on Netflix and with the books coming out, with the 3rd book, people are going to talk about it more. They're going to be like, oh, the 3rd book's coming out next year. We have to make sure you all catch up on the... I mean, I think that's just how I see it. I mean, I see more people talking about it every day. So in my circles. So
yeah, it to me, it's like I'm always assuming it's going to die down because new shows come out.
Right.
And like I don't want people to stay fixated on, you know, something forever. But you know, I'm going to keep making new comics, and if people, I mean, I mentioned Dragon Ball, like that wasn't Akira Toriyama's first thing. He'd already made like another popular manga, Dr. Slump, by then. Like, it might be that it's like my 3rd or 4th big comic or show or something that really kicks off, and hopefully, like then people discover the earlier work. Not to compare myself to Akira Toriyama, but you know, it's I don't feel like the show ending was like the end of my career or anything.
Good.
Oh, not at all.
No, not at all. In fact, I was I don't want to spend too much more time on Doctor Who, but when you were talking about how much you loved Russell, I was like, wow, how cool would it be for you to go to work in that writing room? Like, you know.
So I've written 2 Doctor Who audio Big Finish things, using extremely like deep cut companion characters. They were spin-offs of spin-offs, but the only way you get jobs like that is like you just loudly tell everyone that you're kind of interested. So
I'm sorry,
I have done
what?
Sorry,
what was that expression?
You loudly tell everyone that you're interested.
Gotcha.
So like I can't say what it was, and it ended up not happening, but recently I did get like briefly attached to some big IP thing, and the only reason why I did get that opportunity was because some producers were like, you know who's a big fan of that? Get Hamish. And it's like, don't be embarrassed about what you love, because then those opportunities don't show up.
Well, hopefully one day that would be amazing. I'd love to see an episode like that. You started singing a song a minute ago, which is a great way for us to talk about the music involved in Dead End, of course, which has a life of its own as well. Because, you know, as a songwriter myself, like before I watched the show, one of the things that was sold to me on the show when my friend was pitching me the show to watch was, oh, you're gonna freak out over the music, you know. And I was like, okay, I'll give it a shot. And I was really, really impressed. So I want to hear a little bit about that process for you. About, you know, were you already writing songs, you know, playing instruments? How did that come about?
So I was wondering if you mean like the incidental score or the musical episode?
The musical episode, yeah.
Yeah. Because I talk about the musical episode a lot, and I always feel like I want to shout out Julian Guidetti, who's the actual composer for all the rest of the music.
It's fantastic.
I love the credits theme. It's very Doctor Who-y. And it's only because like he scored 19 of our episodes, and then there's a musical episode which he wasn't as involved in. So shout out to him. But the musical episode. So I was in a band when I was a teenager. We were very like Flight of the Conchords.
Okay.
Like it was comedy songs. And my main role, I'm not actually very musical, oddly, but I love music. So my bandmates did all the actual music, but I was the lyricist and sang. And I've just always loved doing that. I love writing lyrics, and I just love musicals. I think they're among the best like storytelling formats, and I knew the second I got any show commissioned, I'm like, musical episode, and like it could have been a musical show, but I just think that would have been a bit of a hat on a hat, because it's already like a mystery comedy, teen drama, horror,
yeah.
It's like it's a lot. And also like this is a bit of an odd tangent, but because Dead End concerns the use of magic and who is using magic and when, it was really important for me that like the real world was established. I had to cut quite a few jokes people suggested, because it was like cartoon logic too much of like people just like getting a hammer out and bashing, and I'm like, I need the audience to be aware of what is magical and what isn't. So I knew from the start that there had to be like a self-contained musical episode, and because I knew that I wanted it to be really good, I two things. Netflix were like, well, we need an actual composer, and we actually did auditions. So people tried out, and one of them was Patrick Stump, And aside from him being Patrick Stump, we also thought his music was just so incredible and really fit the tone we were going for, because we wanted that kind of rocky horror vibe. And the thing is, it's a tribute to musicals, but it's specifically a tribute to horror musicals. So the opening number is very Little Shop of Horrors. Norma's number on stage is inspired by a scene in Phantom of the Paradise, which is a bit of a weird deep cut musical thing. And then there's Phantom of the Opera is the next scene. There's some Rocky Horror references. During like one of Courtney's big notes at the end, it like cuts to Zagan, the vampire character, yawning, and it was inspired by I'm Going Home for Rocky Horror, where they're like letting him finish. And so everything was meant to be like, I think even Barney's song, which is like a big fantasy sequence, is not obviously inspired by a horror thing. It's inspired by the Sea from Sweeney Todd and Somewhere That's Green from Little Shop. It's that like character dreaming of their better life. So because I knew I wanted it to be good, we spent the same amount of time on the musical episode, writing and getting it right, as we did making all up the 9 other episodes. So when the show we had written the pilot. So when the show got commissioned, we started writing episode 2 and the musical episode. And then we kept writing that while we did episode 3, 4, 5, and whatever.
Wow.
And I'm really proud of it. And we also like were writing it while we were casting, so that affected things. Originally, Pugsley didn't have much of a song, and that all changed when we got Alex. And we
had to have a song.
We had to have it be a duet with himself, because he has 2 great singing voices, and we needed them both. And that genuinely changed the story of the show. Like Pugsley's demon self was going to originally just be like a 1-episode thing in the first episode, but when we knew that we needed that character to come back, we just made that the plot. And I think that's the other reason why I'm pleased with it, is that a lot of musical episodes are just, I suppose, a gimmick. And I know I mentioned one thing I think the Buffy musical episode does so well is that it's an extremely plot important episode. And it's an understanding in both shows that in musicals you sing when your emotions are at your peak. And so we made sure that the episode happened when all of the like stakes and character journeys were at their peak. So they actually had stuff to sing about. I think some musical episodes can just have characters be like, I'm a doctor, and they don't really get why musicals are great. You're meant to be like, I didn't want it to be a parody of musicals. Musicals make me cry. I wanted people to cry.
We did.
Oh, good.
So the musical episode really, it's really, really, really solid. I mean, as somebody, as you mentioned, the Buffy musical to me is like the pinnacle of Buffy. It's everything, and I listen to that soundtrack all the time. It's just everything. And I was like, this felt like the same kind of thing watching it in a lot of ways. It was like watching really powerful moments in what is usually a lighter show, and there's really some really beautiful stuff going on. So
thank you. There was a moment when we were recording Barney's song where our voice director, Christy Reed, who's also queer, was directing, Zach singing, and this was all on Zoom. Like I watched all of the recording over Zoom, and we all like took a moment to look at each other and be like, we're actually doing the thing that we joined this industry to do. All 3 of us, like, I've always wanted to write this scene. Zach's always wanted to play this kind of role. Christy's always wanted to direct this moment, and I love it. I think the show I'm like most likely to be making next, because I have a few things pitching and there's a writer strike, so everything's delayed, and I'm not sure where things are going to go. But the next show I'm making is much more likely to be like musicals, a musical every other episode.
Oh wow!
That's a very funny coincidence. We're doing the same thing. So.
Yes. Just because so many actors also are great singers, and so we'll see how that goes. That might be a different vibe, but it gave me a real taste for it.
Well, it is funny that you are talking about this, because in the promo that we showed before you came on, the real life thing that was happening in that moment that we depicted was kind of the beginning of when Joshua and I started working on a show called Crooked Cabaret, which is essentially a horror musical show based on a haunted, cabaret. But the other similarities here that as you're talking, I'm like, oh my God, this sounds just like. So as soon as I got involved with Josh, first it was just for music. He just basically was like, he needed some music. I needed the experience. So I started scoring the show. And then once I did like maybe two scenes, Josh said, by the way, would you ever want to do a musical episode? And I was like, I mean, I would, but I've never done that before, So from that point forward, that was probably late 2018. From that point forward until the beginning of 2021?
2022.
Oh, 2022. I keep forgetting. Yeah. We were basically working on that one episode, which is, to be fair, versus all the other episodes of a normal season, is like 3 times as long. It's a movie. But that episode took us the entire time to do from start to finish. We reshot like 4 of the songs.
Probably, yeah, I think so.
We had whole things done in the can, ready to go, and we were like, "Nah, we could do better. Let's do it again."
We had whole storylines that we cut and rewrote and changed that we filmed, and it was amazing, the process of making a musical. I thought it would be a lot easier. I don't know why.
Because but that's one of the beautiful things about you. It's one of the reasons I love you. It's because you see something and you go, you know what, I can do that, and then you just go do it, and it doesn't matter. That's why you won that. What was the award they gave you last year?
The Don't Wait Create Award.
Don't Wait Create. But the other similarities are so wild. I really hadn't thought about just how much the musical episode is a love letter to musicals in that way. And then our musical episode is literally, because of the fact of how it takes place, the main characters have all of these literal insertions of musicals. So like entire chunks of Into the Woods are, spat out, that kind of thing. Stuff we could probably get in trouble for if somebody would do anything over. But it was done in a way that was obvious that it was like you were talking about. It was from a very loving place, and we weren't just trying to we knew what we were doing, I think. At least that's the gist that we get back from people as they get it, and it felt really good. And I'm the other thing that we do a lot of the times, Hamish, when we get people on here, is we start talking and we're like, oh wait, how can we get this person involved in what we're doing? So if you ever want to co-write something musical, and you want to do that, we'll send you the musical episode when we're done. You can check it out. It would be an honor. When you finished with the musical episode, and I don't even know if this is even, I think I've seen a couple of the songs on streaming services. There's not an actual album on streaming, is there?
No. There isn't.
Oh, that was a very sad reply.
It's not the reply I want
Right.
to say. I think there was worry about a couple of the songs towing the line of parody a bit closer, a bit too close, and some fears of retribution from certain composers.
I know what you're talking about specifically. So,
yeah, his name rhymes with Schlandrew Droid winner. But
I don't know who you're talking about.
But you know, as I always said, if he ever sued, I would counter sue because I watched Cats and I want my money back.
I watched Woman in White on Broadway, so trust me, I understand.
But the thing is, I don't think there would be a problem. It's literally just the people who have the button to press are worried because they would be sued. And,
you know who I would love to see do it, who might actually even be able to push to do it, is Mondo. But I think Mondo actually just announced they were being sold or something too.
But you know, I want that to be something. I think maybe when we originally released the show and there was like lots of eyes on it, that would have been the time when we would have got in trouble. If we would have got in trouble, we actually hired a musicologist to make sure there was no actual note similarities. I think it's clearly a parody. But even then, you can still get sued.
Yeah.
I think now maybe things have died down. It would be nice to kind of shadow drop it. So I am still having those conversations, but you know, the people that a lot of people have moved on in the conversation as well. So
sure.
I'd love it to happen. I mean, I'd love to release everything. I think the actual score is really lovely. I think Patrick did a bunch of demos, which I think people would love to hear. I have put some on YouTube.
I did see that. Yeah.
Yeah. There's even a totally cut song that
I didn't see that.
Is only in demo form. We never recorded it, but originally Pugsley's song before we got Alex was going to be a parody of essentially science fiction double feature from Rocky Horror. Originally, the musical episode was going to start with Pugsley's head coming out in darkness, and he was going to sing about the concept of musical episodes. It was going to be a kind of very meta thing. And the thing is, Netflix didn't tell us to cut things very much, but that came from a real creative suggestion, and I do agree with it. It was hard to lose at the time, but they were they just thought it would be funnier for the musical episode to start by surprise, partway in. As soon as the spell is cast, that's the first thing to sing. And we actually cast Patrick Stump as Josh, a really minor, weird background character, because we thought it would be funny if the first person to sing was a background character with a really incredible voice. Turns out he was a really good actor, and he came back for season 2, even though there was no singing. So yeah, we cut the song, and we added the driver's seat Pugsley song, which I think is better anyway. But yeah, I really want to, this would all be easier if there was a third season and Netflix was still actively looking for ways to promote it. But I think it'll come out someday.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Well, we hope so. And, seriously, I think obviously, there are, you were paired with the right group of musicians, the right producer. That was a really well produced, those songs were really well produced. They sounded great. They were written really well. So I think you've got a knack for it, is what I'm saying. So hopefully it won't be the end of your musical journey by any means. Raise your hand if you'd love to see a dead end live stage musical. That would be amazing.
At the rap party, we did have karaoke, which was fun.
That's awesome.
There are karaoke versions of all the songs. somewhere on my hard drive.
I'm looking over our notes here to make sure that we covered everything that Josh and I wanted to talk with you about. And I see that there is something else that we had in common about the musical episode, and that is that we basically shot and produced the music, definitely produced the music. The majority of all of it really was done in 2020 during the lockdown. And Josh had to participate essentially by just being on Zoom. And even the actors, like I had to, meet with them over Zoom, teach them their song, coach them through the lyrics, all of that stuff. It wasn't until 2021 that we got to fly to New York and do the vocals. And while 2020 was happening and I was in the middle of recording that, I was also addicted to Twitch. And I was going through your YouTube and I realized that you seem to have like, at least for a while, you were, pretty busy playing like Kingdom Hearts and stuff on Twitch. I wanted to know about your experience about that. Are you still doing it?
Yeah, I mean, that was the lockdown thing that everyone did. Yeah. It was actually riding my husband's coattails. So my husband is a streamer. He's all that. He has not streamed in a very long time, but he's still on Twitch every day. I think he's watching a stream right now. And genuinely, what happened was we moved house. We set up the streaming area again, and then we accidentally deleted a lot of our files. I don't know how to say it. So we it was fine. We just had to remake our stream thing, but we just didn't. And then it coincided with us getting a dog, and then he's literally couldn't be more asleep right now. But for the first few months was let me see.
Oh, he's really resting.
His head is blocked by a fan.
Oh, what kind of dog is he?
He's a whippet.
Oh,
it's like a small greyhound. But he for a long time he was a big handful in the evening when we wanted to stream, and it just a lot of factors led to us not streaming anymore. But I keep wanting to. I keep seeing games that I really want to play on stream. I've never completed Kingdom Hearts 2 because it's I haven't streamed since then, and it feels weird to finish it on my own. But I just got busy. I would really love to, and it was such a nice thing to do in lockdown.
I rewatched a couple of your streams, segments of them for 20-30 minutes at a pop, preparing for this. You were actually really good at it. Is that because maybe you had been watching your husband do it?
Yeah, I mean, we both learnt stuff from each other, and we were both figuring it out. He was different in the sense that he would stream 3 or 4 times a week and was in other people's streams every day and really building a community. He had a Discord, he had branding, everything else. I streamed once a week, never interacted with anyone, played only games I cared about playing and never stuff that was trending or anything like that.
Right.
So we had slightly different styles.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I had a really fun time. My streaming, sometimes it was a lot. I would start some games and be like, oh no, this is really bad for streaming. It's a lot of me reading and I can't really interact. So finding the right game to play was fun. I think playing Kingdom Hearts was really fun because it has that I had never played them, and there were so many people in the comments just waiting for me to get to ridiculous moments. I was playing the first game being why does everyone say this is confusing? I fully understand what's going on. And then 5 minutes into Chain of Memories, I'm wait, what is happening? What? Where are we?
That's
Why?
So funny.
It is such a it goes from being such a logical, straightforward game to being what is this insanity?
Also, the whole time I was playing it, I had this secret that Sora is voiced by Haley Joel Osment.
Oh, gotcha.
He's in Dead End, and his sister plays Courtney, Emily Osment. So I spent the whole time, and also Bill Farmer, who plays Goofy, is in an episode of Dead End, and Barney's mum is voiced by Minnie Mouse.
Wow.
So there was a lot of like people showing up who I was like, I know this person. So that was fun.
That's awesome.
So yeah, I played that. I think one of the most fun games I played was a Japanese import game called City Shrouded in Shadow that had no translation. I had no idea what was going on. I bought it because Godzilla's in it, and I'm a huge Godzilla fan. But it's a game where you play as humans escaping a city in which Godzilla, the angels from Evangelion, and Ultraman monsters and a few other properties are attacking you.
Whoa.
But I also am playing a like motorbike bald lesbian like alien lady. Like I truly did not know what the plot was, but I was playing this. I had like at the end of the game I just turned into a purple cloud and went back to space. And I was like, okay. Bearing in mind the game starts with you like in a 7-Eleven. It's like it's a very odd game, but that was so fun because we were all just discovering it together. Whereas sometimes I was playing games I knew really well or the audience knew really well, but I don't know. I sometimes been tempted to do like an art stream where I'm just like drawing pages, but I keep working on books where I can't show what I'm working on. So.
I did see you did some virtual signings for the special editions.
Yeah, it was fun. I think the method at which I think there was some damage with the books because the company who organized it had to send me the books and I had to send them back, and then they had to send them back to the people. And I'm in London and they're in California, so it was just like maybe wouldn't do that again. But people can still buy my signed books, and I'm, I hope to go on tour again next year with the third book.
That would be amazing. So, like hitting Comic Cons and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I do UK events. I'm doing a little tour next month or the month after. We haven't solidified everything or announced anything. I'm just going to do some UK cities. But this summer last year I was in New York and LA, and I'd love to do some other places. Can I ask a weird question? In the trailers, did you film anything in Horror Vibes Coffee?
No, we did not.
Okay.
But
I saw a horror themed like bar, and I was like, I've been to a place in California like that.
Oh no, I bet you're talking about what was the bar that's closed?
Money Shots?
Money Shots, because it had like
Waystation. Oh yeah,
Waystation. Yeah, it's very steampunk looking. Is that what you're talking about?
Also, the Waystation had the bathroom was a TARDIS, so the entire bath. That was the big thing about the bar, was that it was a Doctor Who themed bar, and the bathroom was, you had to go through the TARDIS doors to get inside it, and it was bigger on the inside than what the bathroom looks like. So.
It was also very noisy and really hard to mix audio for.
Yes, I remember your dislike of that place, but I loved it for the aesthetics and for the fact that it was a Doctor Who themed bar. So,
well, I want to come back and do some more events stateside, but I've always had to kind of pave my way to do that a bit, and
there's a queer Comic-Con in New York in August usually, I think, called FlameCon.
Yeah, I applied and didn't get in, but I did apply. I was there last year.
Wow.
So
that's really weird.
Yeah, that's, especially if you had already been there. That's hello, FlameCon. What?
I figured they want some variety, maybe, and not the same people every year. But it's not a huge. I mean, it would have been nice, but I've done a lot this year, and next year I'll have all 3 books. So. That'll be fun.
Any way we can help you get over here by promoting, like, anything that you're doing anytime, please feel free to send it to us. We we do have a Discord that we share with our Crewniverse members who, of course, are members of Patreon. I didn't see a link on your website, so I don't think you have a Patreon. Is that correct?
I do.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, I don't promote it very much, but I do post on it every day.
Oh, okay, wow. Well, that's more than we do for the Crewniverse one.
Yeah, I mean, I post art of things I'm working on every day, often like completely out of context.
Oh, wow.
And I try and do, as I'm like working on new books. So once Dead End Year 3's wrapped up, I'm actually working on a whole new series. And it's exciting, but it's daunting because I have to design everything again, design all the characters. So I'm going to be posting a lot of stuff to do with that.
Okay. Is it the same username, Hamish Steele?
Yeah, Hamish Steele everywhere.
Okay.
I believe.
Awesome.
It's not super promoted, but it's somewhere on my links.
I'm just as bad, Hamish. In fact, if you're watching this, a lot of our Patreon members kind of cross over. So if you're watching this and you're a member of my Patreon, I know I didn't post the lyric video yesterday. It'll be up today.
Mm-hmm.
So it's I feel like as artists, we're constantly, now having to create and market simultaneously, and it really bums me out. I get kind of depressed over it sometimes. Actually, it's a lot to deal with sometimes. So I totally get that. I think we've covered everything that we wanted to talk about. I want to remind people at home that the way that the new season is working, we're actually going to air this on Monday during our normal time, because I'm going to be at a concert this week that I really wanted to see. So instead of having a live show, we'll be rebroadcasting this on Monday. But then several weeks down the line from now, we'll be chopping this up and turning it into a podcast that'll be available on all of our the places that you get your podcasts and stuff. And it won't have all the spaces and all that. It'll be like a real thing. And one of the things that we'll make sure to do is to place little snippets of some songs here and there of things we've talked about in here. And Hamish, if you've got anything that you want to send us afterwards, you're like, oh, could we include this or a clip of that or any of those things, feel free to. I don't know about, Josh, I'm pretty sure I could say this safely, but I've really enjoyed having you on the show.
I mean, you can speak for me, but I will also say the same thing. I really, really enjoyed having you on the show. I feel like you and I grew up with basically all the same shows on our television at the same time. So, because I feel like everything you're saying, I feel like I was also watching at the same time. So it's nice to have a colleague at this point to feel like, oh, I was that little nerd watching that too. So.
Yeah, and I seriously hope that there's someone watching Dead End that gets inspired to create their own thing, and I'd love to watch it.
Well, we really appreciate you staying as long as you did. Totally generous of you. Folks at home, you can check out Hamish at hamishsteele.co.uk or pretty much at Hamish Steele on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Tumblr, all the spots, really. Patreon, as we just said. Obviously, the creator of Dead End and Dead End Paranormal Park, Dead India. Oh, and we want to show this again, too. Don't forget that, Hamish, you can get these books out now. The first 2 books, currently working on the third, which everybody's super excited about. Anything that we didn't cover that you wanted to talk about?
Yeah, I watch the show still, even if it doesn't like bring the show back. I think it's good. I have a webcomic, which is out every Wednesday on Webtoons. It's called Croc and Roll.
Okay.
It's a musical crocodilian kind of mix between Teenage Turtles and Gem and the Holograms kind of thing. It's also available in book form from my store. It's got art by George Williams, who is not me, so I just was the writer of this. But he's incredible, really talented. He's got a bunch of other books in development, so I think he's just about to blow up big time. But yeah, Croc and Roll on Webtoons, and things are coming. I'm literally pitching. Yeah, there we are. Literally pitching and developing shows. I've got a game in development.
Whoa.
I've written a movie that we're pitching around. So things are coming. But this is the period where we wait.
Right.
And maybe there'll be some announcements of things towards the end of the year or next year. Who knows? Yeah.
Now I'm even more excited, though. That's very exciting.
Yeah. And I want to go check out this Croc and Roll now. I mean, as a kid who grew up in the 80s, Jim and the Holograms was like a huge inspiration on me. Like, I don't get me wrong, I did love G.I. Joe, but I lived for Synergy. Like,
yeah.
And and I have to say, I also am a really big fan of Jizz and the Hologram.
Yeah.
The spinoff, which I think honestly, Ron Hill, who I sent the Doctor Who thing to, I think he's one of the people that created that, by the way.
Jizz in the Mammograms?
Jizz in the Mammograms was that parody was co-created, I think, by Ron Hill. I may be wrong about that. If you're listening out there and and you want to correct me, please do. But we will definitely be on the lookout for these things, and we will absolutely, if you find yourself in New York City, we have to figure out a way to get you a cameo on one of the shows or in one of the films that we're doing. I don't know that I've seen any of you ever acting in a live action thing. Oh,
see, he's a real. People always expect me to have like a big fluffy Pugsley dog, but he's a weird snake. My little moray eel.
That's gonna look like a moray eel.
My Shin Godzilla over there.
Oh.
Sorry, you were talking about live action. I wasn't listening.
Have you ever done live action as an actor?
I was in a play once. It wasn't the greatest acting from my part, but no. The writing, the movie I've written is live action.
Oh, good.
Okay. And so maybe.
Is it genre fiction or is it?
It's a comedy horror like Dead End, but
right up my alley.
Very different in some ways, and I've co-written that with Mia Rosella, who was a writer on the show, and it's a lot of frustrations about working in the industry through the pandemic, but nothing really to do with that. That's not the plot, but it's a lot of comedy, but also a bit of rage.
I love it.
Yeah, so we'll see.
Hamish, the longer you're here, the more I get excited about the future of your creative stuff. I mean, I was already excited about it, but wow, you've got some really cool stuff in the works. We're definitely want to, like I said, as soon as you've got something you can announce, please let us know. We'd love to help spread the word.
Sure.
Yeah, and seriously, we will absolutely. If you're make it to New York, we will put you in a show, and if nothing else, a cameo. We'll have you on anytime you want. There's you would be the second person from the UK to be in the show. Is that right? Third. I always forget. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, in that show, in Skeleton Crew, which I guess by me talking about it like that signifies that I'm still okay with us talking about season 6.
We will do a season 6, of course. We can't leave it unended.
Of course not.
When you're an indie creator, no one else can tell you no. So I'm the one that's making it. So I will say we're doing it. So.
Oh, I have my bandwidth for stuff, Hamish, is like lately, because we've been looking for a house, has just narrowed dramatically. So anytime Josh starts talking about something new, I get like, I want to just finish what I'm working on.
And meanwhile, I have like 7 different projects at one time on my menu, and I'm like, which one am I going to work on today? And
your day job.
And my day job. Yes.
Right. That's true. Well, Hamish, thanks again for being here. For folks at home, we don't have a second guest. Josh and I are going to do a quick post-show wrap-up, so you can stick around for that post-show wrap-up. We're going to play 2 commercials before we come back, so I can take a quick bathroom break. So the first one is going to be the season 2 Demon Doctor trailer, and the next one is the musical episode trailer, which you can stream at pretty much anywhere. Oh, and shout out, by the way, to anybody who's looking for it. We did pull the instrumental version and Nakia's vocal version off of streaming. The only place you'll be able to get that in the future is either through the Patreon or through my Bandcamp. So it was just too confusing because they all use the same backing tracks. So the original cast recording, my version where I sing all the songs, and the instrumental version all use the same backing tracks. And Content ID, which is the YouTube technology that identifies all this stuff, it kept assigning the wrong royalties, and it was just too confusing. So we just pulled them all down. If you want them, let us know. We'll show you where to get them. But until then, we will be back in just a moment with a post-show wrap-up. Thank you again to Hamish Steele. We really appreciate it. And really looking forward to both these 2 new books and then the 3rd book coming out in the future.
Thank you again.
Thank you. It was wonderful.
Oh, good. We're so glad. Thanks a lot.
Hello? Somebody there? Hey. Who are you?
Harvest? Yes, this symbol is on every single victim.
So it's vengeance you seek.
Nothing about this is fine!
People don't just randomly kill. There has to be a pattern here.
I screwed up big time! I can't find an answer about the scissor slasher, and I can't find an answer about what I am.
That was not my turn.
I trust you. This is terrifying. But fun?
Right.
Okay, so maybe I embellished a thing or 2 on immortality.
With love as well as with magic. There is always a price.
I'm very much looking forward to it.
You can call yourself a chubby chaser, even if you're not a twink. You wanna hurt me? Well, I say yay.
Sex is the best sex, that's what they say.
I'll say it once, I'll say it twice. So listen to my advice.
Come here, just a little bit closer.
I'm a laugh machine, I'll leave you tickled pink. Let's clown around if that's your kink. We can clown around if that's your kink. Yes, you can say that I've got daddy issues.
Oh, man. I'm going to be doing Daddy Issues live at Palm Springs at Dad Fest, part of Western Exposure. I'll be out there in just 2 weeks. Really excited about it. Super, super excited about season 2 of Demon Doctor. We've been having so much fun. Watching that trailer, we've been talking so much about Doctor Who, Josh, that I was like, every time that I watched that trailer, I'm like, when the part where Yakumo says, none of this is fine. Every time that I watch this trailer, I think it sounds like exterminate. And it just cracks me up now because we were talking about it so much today. You know, I would say that there's a lot of old school Doctor Who and Demon Doctor.
Well, I mean, I think so because it's also very low budget, much like old school Doctor Who was, and so a lot of what we do is very old budget stuff. I mean, I write stuff that I know we can produce. I don't write things that I don't have. I don't have characters flying across the sky and doing things that just would not be things that we could accomplish. So right. I do things that are practical and with practical effects. So.
Sure. Well, the joy that I am in right now from having Hamish on the show is just super thick. It was just great having Hamish here. The thing that I kept thinking about is like how cool it was that they seemed really, really down to earth, and like they were still really, really hungry to create more stuff. Uh, that that is very inspiring to me, to see somebody that on fire. I just read this weird quote that got served to me on Instagram or Twitter or somewhere from Mark Cuban that was like, the only thing that you can control about your success is your effort, and um, you as well, Josh. You always really inspire me. I know I love to fuck with you about how much you put out, but it's actually a real inspiration. I would have never started my Patreon had I not spent the better part of a year watching what it was like for you to try to put one together. I'd probably, I think it's safe to say the musical episode was the gayest thing that I had done in my career at that point. And a lot of the way that I view sex and, being open about my sexuality, about even how I dress I think has evolved since doing the musical with you.
I'm really excited to hear that. I mean, that's I do the I try to do the work that we do because I want not just people who watch it to be able to grow and find inspiration, but also the people who make it. And so I'm really excited that you feel that way.
Yeah, it's again, I know it's a joke that I make to a lot of people that you're a cult leader, but it's hard not to make that joke when you watch people get introduced to you and then watch them watch, especially if you're on set and people watch you work live. I think it's interesting to see how everybody just immediately, goes into what can I do to help mode, having been a band leader for the better part of the last 12, 13, 15, almost 20 years. It's unheard of. It's very hard to, especially if it's not a band where everybody is in it together, which is very rare these days, especially in Austin. I couldn't just call up people and be like, hey, you really want to be a part of this? This is, whatever. So it's very inspiring in that way. And yesterday I was in the studio working with Matt Parmenter, who everybody watching probably knows is the co-producer of the musical album that we put out, the cast recording. And I said, one of the coolest things that I've ever done as far as releasing music, up until the musical episode, I had never released an album that every song has a music video, because it's literally taken from the screen. So it's just perfect, and it was just really satisfying as a creator to see the story come to life, not just in the main show when you watch it, or if you watch it as a separate movie, which you don't have to know all of the ins and outs of the Cruniverse, as we say, to know those things. It helps if you want to go back and watch that. There are 5 seasons now. But it's just, I don't know. It's different. So I'm really grateful to you in that respect. I'm grateful to you in the respect that you inspire me to want to not just create more, but create better, like do, and I don't mean better in the sense of technically, because if that were the case, I wouldn't be doing this stuff with you at all. Because again, like you said, you write for what we can shoot, but we're scrappy. We'll use whatever, and make it work. Right. I mean, better in the sense of like, I can do things that will make a difference in somebody's life. Like because it's the anniversary of me being on The Voice, around this time is around the time that I got eliminated, right?
Mm.
The semifinals. And I start getting, messages or flashbacks from like Facebook and that sort of stuff. And a lot of the times it'll be a fan tagging me that was like, no, today's the anniversary of when Nakia got voted off, or that sort of stuff. And it always like it always makes me feel really good because of what we did, on the show and my time there. But it also just kind of reminds me that like up until Robert and I were, shown on television holding hands walking into my blind audition, which was of course all shocker, staged. There hadn't been an openly gay contestant on a singing competition, let alone like an openly gay contestant on a singing competition that was partnered, and they were going to show that. And of course, this is before Robert and I were married, so he was my partner on the show. And so the other thing that I sometimes get is this message from people that'll say like, "Oh, because I saw you on TV, that changed my life. I was able to come out to my family," that sort of thing. And the other day I was leaving Apple where Robert works, and a guy stopped me in the garage and essentially kind of said the same thing in person. It really, really moved me. And I hope, and I've had this happen with, some big guys at like Bigger Vegas and that sort of stuff, but people come up to me sometimes, but I hope it happens even more in the future, that say like, "Oh, we saw, Skeleton Crew or we saw Demon Doctor," that sort of thing. And it helped me to better understand myself, or it helped me feel okay with being who I am. I think that's really, really cool. I think it's really, really cool that there are these characters in this universe that exist that are just like everybody else. They just happen to be this, that, or the other, and they can do some really wild, crazy shit, like live inside of a virtual reality machine that's been adapted by someone who identifies as an adult baby who is obsessed with musicals. It's just like, good for you. That's where it's at. It's just so much fun.
No, it's those are the kind of messages that mean the most, I think, when I get them, when people write to me and say how much they really appreciate what we're doing and how much they've learned about themselves from watching it. And that's sort of what I was thinking when I was watching Dead End, and I was thinking, kids who can watch this are so damn lucky, because if I had watched this when I was a kid, I would have felt, my mind would have been blown. I'd be like, this is so normal, and these are queer characters doing all these fun horror and magic things that
the horror elements like perfect.
So it's the kind of thing that I'm so grateful that there's people who are doing what we do as well, because the more people that do it, the better it is for everyone. The better it is for those chubby little queer kids who want to see themselves represented on screen. With Dead End, especially with people of color who are also queer being represented on screen. It's just so beautiful that this is happening now, and especially amidst everything else that's going on in the world, with especially in the US, more so in the US than anywhere. I mean, it's
mostly in Texas.
Well, I was thinking
it's everywhere, but it feels like it's extra gross here. And like this week, a friend was visiting us from Vegas, and when people are here for the first time, we always take them on a tour. And like, we were driving by, I was like, there's the fucking Capitol. It's gorgeous. It's bigger than the US Capitol, but it's filled with fucking idiots, like hateful, bigoted idiots that are, just ignorant. There's some good people there, but man, it really, really, it makes it hard to want to live here, and I've, recently met several people just in the last 3 months, I would say, who have told me, yeah, I'm looking for another job. I'm trying to leave because they're trans and they don't want to live in Texas. They're scared. I mean, one of my dearest friends, who I do a lot of collaboration with, when he told me that recently, it like really broke my heart, because it's not like I can blame them. I mean, it's an outward threat, and I get the whole like, but stay and represent, or whatever. But, at the same time, I also have to respect people that are like, what, I don't have bandwidth for that. I need to move and focus on what's best for me. And it just means that now more than ever, shows like what you create, what Hamish creates, We're Here, which has been, I think, really, really fantastic. All of these great shows that have been coming out. We need more of that. More and more.
And even in Drag Story Hour, I mean, if you are on the Patreon, you would have noticed that yesterday's Patreon Sidekick Extra is part one of what I was very, very, very fortunate able to do, was record a session of Drag Story Hour with Reverend Yolanda. And Drag Story Hour is such a beautiful, wholesome experience for the people who get to go see it, and for the children who get to go there and have that experience and interaction. It's so beautiful and loving and wholesome, and using queer people using their art to give representation. That's the world I want to live in, and that's the world that I'm lucky that we can find wonderful guests like Hamish to bring on the show that do that. So
absolutely. Okay, well, I think that we're going to wrap the show. So let's go over who's coming up this week. So again, we'll air this live on Monday. It'll be a repeat basically. And thanks again to Hamish for letting us do a Saturday special taping, so that because they're 6 hours ahead of me, 5 hours ahead of Josh. So it'd have been a little tough to do this on Monday night at 7:00 Eastern time. July 3rd, we've got Big Dipper and Dominic Burgess, y'all. I mean, Dominic Burgess has been in like 10 times the things that you think he's been in.
Dominic Burgess I looked at his IMDb. He's basically been in every TV show that I've ever loved, from Doctor Who to The Flash to everything that's going on. I mean,
I forgot about The Flash.
Yeah, he was Kilgore.
So good, so good. We're so excited to have Dominic on. The following week, we still will be probably airing another previously taped episode, because I'm going to go see Tanya Tucker tape Austin City Limits. And I will just have been getting back from Dad Fest, and my body will probably not be in a great shape. or certain parts of my body. And then the 17th, July 17th, Chris Grace will be here to talk about his incredible show that I got to see a preview of here in Austin back in April, called Chris Johnson as Scarlett Johansson as Chris Johnson.
Chris Grace, I think.
Oh no, I'm sorry. Why I keep saying Chris Johnson? He's the bass player for my last band. Chris Grace as Scarlett Johansson as Chris Johnson. As Chris Grace. Damn it.
So the show is called Chris Grace as Scarlett Johansson as Chris Grace.
Anyway,
Chris Grace.
Even Baker is in there barking at me. She's so mad at me. The show is incredible, and it is literally exactly what the title says. Chris comes on.
Let him talk about it when he comes here.
Yeah, it's so fucking good. I cried a lot, partially because I know Chris and I know how much this topic of representation and racism and whitewashing means to him. But also because he's just that fucking good in it. And it's a one-man show. So if you're going to be in Hollywood in the next week, he's still got some performances left. He won the Audience Favorite Award, I believe, already for Hollywood Fringe. And then he's doing like 27 performances in Edinburgh. That same night, we're going to have Demon Doctor's own Mark Eugene Garcia, who is since... He was already a great playwright and writer himself before he joined the Crewniverse, but now he's a published playwright who his plays are being done and performed, and he's great. So we're going to talk a lot about Eight Tales of Pedro. What's the other one that he just finished?
Shining Through Misery.
Yes, Shining Through Misery.
The Stephen King musical.
The Stephen King music. I cannot wait to hear all about that. The following week, again, you guys are just finding this out. We have Kyle McIntyre. If you guys don't remember who this is, or don't know the name, you may remember who this is from a mental image I'm going to give you. Back in the beginning, right before the pandemic, there was an advert that went viral of a big chubby guy that was a construction worker leading a bunch of other construction workers in a very sexy dance. That guy is Kyle McIntyre. He's got some new music out. He's also a singer, not just a dancer. And he's going to be joining us on the 24th. We will probably, I don't know who we have July 31st, but on August 7th, we're going to have St. Drogo creators here. I believe we'll have all 4 of them. I may be wrong, but I'll double check. We're going to have Tom Goss and Liz DeRoche back in August as well. And another exclusive, y'all, Benjamin Cole coming up. He'll be here in late August as well. So if you've got, an idea for guests that you want us to have on the show, let us know in the comments. Anything I missed, Josh?
Just how nice it is to see you all on a Saturday.
Yeah, for sure. And Josh will be filming another episode of The Brooklyn Butcher tomorrow.
I am. I think tomorrow we'll make it halfway through the season.
Okay.
We are slated to film, I think, 5 more times in July, and then it's probably our shortest, other than the movie. It's our shortest production schedule ever because we're only doing 12 days of filming for The Brooklyn Butcher, and yet you're still going to get 9 episodes. So look at me finding ways to make things happen. I cannot wait to talk more about The Brooklyn Butcher and tell you what it is, other than the title. The title gives it away in one sense, but it's a romance. The Brooklyn Butcher. It's about a Brooklyn butcher who falls in love. And no, it's nothing like that at all. We'll talk more about that in the future, though, everyone. But I'm so excited for it. So.
Awesome. Well, thanks everybody for being here. We will be broadcasting this episode live on Monday at 7:00. So you'll see that go up. Please watch it again, share it, let people know about it. Don't forget, you can head over to patreon.com/Sidekick Productions and see exclusive BTS, bloopers, script read-throughs, soundtrack demos, all kinds of stuff. And support us. You can also go over to sidekicksupermarket.com and get your own Sidekick t-shirt. We've got lots of those. And you can pretty much go to sidekickproductions.org and see all of the stuff that Sidekick does. And shout out again to my Patreon members. I'll get you that lyric video and audio download before the weekend is up.
And welcome to all the Dead End fans who joined us today.
Yes,
come back and see more of what we do. It sounds like there's a lot of crossover, I think, between Dead End and Demon Doctor, especially. So
yeah.
I'd love to have you check out the show, demondoctor.com. It's not quite as wholesome as Dead End is, but it's still just as queer. So
yeah, well. Yeah, it's definitely, it might be a lot more queer, but it is very, very fun, and I think you'll like it. So thanks so much for being here. To Hamish, Josh, thanks for giving me a Saturday morning.
My pleasure.
And we will see everybody next time.
And that's the tea.